Every landscape design, of course, needs some sort of logo and information about the site location, scale, and so on. What I've done here is use gCADPlus's ability to place raster images. This happens to be a GIF image of the logo of the designer of this, the provider of this design. It's a bitmapped image, so if we select the image, you can see it's just one particular entity. What we'd now like to do is to hopefully find a font that matches the Mahoney's and then trace over the logo to make a vector version of that logo. We then have a much more effective logo than just using an image of this type. When tracing over a GIF file, in this case, to make a logo, make a vector version of this logo, if you look at the stylized tree here, you can see that it, one left-hand side is a mirror image of the right. So I tend to set the colour at something bright, like red, and now I'll draw. I find drawing with a polyline when making these sort of logos really useful. Just sort of trace around roughly around the shape and then close the polyline. Now what we want to do is to select all the entities, all the polyline entities on the left-hand side. Whoops. Hold the Shift key down. I inadvertently selected the image itself that's behind the vector here. Now right-click, mirror. First point of our mirror line will be here, and I could put ortho on, but I think I can do this by eye, he says. No, let's put ortho on. And what I forgot to do was, I need to undo, we can just mirror back in the other direction. So I have to pick the polylines again, right click and mirror. What I need to do at this point is right click and say with a copy. Now I can put my mirror line in place like so, and the copy is effected. So we've got a stylized tree there. We can fill it with some colour in a little while, but you'll notice that there is some shadowing here. Not so sure about the angle of the shadowing. We would normally want to shadow that by 45 degrees, so I'll play around with that in a little while. But we're nearly ready to remove the background and we'll have our logo. Well, I've selected the polyline, I've set the fill on, and I've picked the colour at colour 128. So, and I'll make that, I'll put some curve fitting on there. By clicking here, we'll make it a quadratic B-spline. Now what I can do is use the modify and match properties. We'll pick up the properties now of that polyline and apply them to all of the other shapes that are there. That's not a closed one, so we won't be able to close that as it stands. We need to fix that up in a moment by drawing another polyline from, we'll snap to the end of there and to the end of there, and that's now done. We can enter. If I select the polyline and that one, I've got 3 polylines selected, right click and then join them. Now we can use our modify match properties tool, which is one of the most common things we would expect you to use, and unselect all at this point. Well, at this stage I'll turn the entities that make up the tree logo into a block, and that's done by simply wrapping a box around them, right click, create block, we'll call it logo, and for a pick point we'll use this again. We can say I'll pick a point at the base. That will mean when we use it again we can place it relatively easily. And OK. So we are now in a position, I think if we pick, there's the whole block sitting there. What we'd like is a little bit of shadowing effect. So I think we're now in a position to remove, I'll select it and then delete it, and we're now in a position to apply some shadowing. Well, the shadowed logo has now been applied there. What I've done is to put the original GIF image just above it to give you an indication of how we've done it. Looks reasonable, perhaps not as good as the original, but it will do for the sake of this particular demonstration. Of course, if your landscape design consultancy had a high resolution TIFF file, that could be placed in here. You might even have your logo done in Adobe's InDesign or in Adobe's Illustrator, and from those you can produce vector images, DXF files, and all sorts of other file exchange formats. But let's right click and zoom extents. We now have our drawing sheet done. We don't have the rest of the title block information in place yet, but that's on its way. So we're gradually getting this landscape design in reasonable gCADPlus shape.